Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Guillermo. If you can't pronounce that, my name is Billy or Memo. Today I'm going to be talking about linkage institutions, and basically what that is a way for us, the citizens, to be informed about what's going on in the government. They do that by media, like what you watch on TV, by political parties, whether you're Democrat or Republican, by interest groups, or by elections. It's those things that are going around that let us know what's going on in the government. And today I'm going to be focusing more about media, and I'm going to be looking at the whole issue of immigration. And so I'm going to be looking at, of course, media of immigration. There's three things that I'm going to be looking at. There's going to be this one video about Bill O'Reilly and his claims about the whole immigration topic. We're going to be looking also at George Ramos and his whole idea about what Donald Trump has to say about immigration, as well as the immigration overall. And three, it's going to be a mixture of both. It's going to be kind of Bill O'Reilly and George Ramos, and they both kind of battle it out. That's what I like to call it, because it looks that way. And they both gave their own arguments about what immigration is about. And yeah, overall, let's get started with the video. Okay, so for the first source, I had the opportunity to analyze the video of Bill O'Reilly. And his point of views and arguments over this were, they're very conservative in a way, considering the facts that he did not really talk about any of the other opportunities that we would have if we kept the immigrants here. He mostly talked about, the bad ways we spend money on trying to, negotiate our ways between the people who were immigrants and us here, and trying to solve different things like that. He brought up the fact that Obama he paid like $4 million into this idea to try to have a peaceful solution, rather than having some people just standing there in the line and not letting them get to the U.S. or anything like that. And so based on that, I can see that he's very conservative. I can also see that he's really biased, because he didn't really talk about any of the other things. Like, he didn't talk about the liberal point of views on this. He didn't talk about how it's actually beneficial for us having immigrants here or anything like that. He mostly focused on the bad side and didn't focus on the good. Bill O'Reilly's use of words like crumbling system or disaster, and even the word illegal immigrant, all make it seem like it's very wrong to let illegal immigrants into the U.S. and to actually want that. He used the word crumbling system, which gives me the image that our system right now is already falling apart, or that it will. Which in a way I kind of feel like it already is, but that's off the subject. Disaster, he also used that word too, and it's like, are we really in that bad of a disaster if we do let illegal immigrants in? I mean, we already have a whole bunch of them in here, so why is a little more gonna make a disaster? He also even used the word illegal immigrant, and which it would be like a better idea to call them undocumented people, because they are undocumented, and calling them illegal immigrants is more like, I don't know, it's a little more offensive. So if you were to say undocumented people, I would have given him props, maybe a little support. But he used those words, which kind of created a kind of way that, if you do want illegal immigrants and you're okay with that into the U.S., then it makes you seem like you're supporting a crumbling system that's going to fall into a disaster if you let illegal immigrants go into the U.S. Sounds kind of bad. So you can see in a way that his word choice is a very strong one that'll only go to what he wants, and the way he just manipulates the whole situation like that is very, very weird. So Bill O'Reilly does in fact use a lot of, different things. Like, he does use statistics, he does use quoted research, and he does use opposing point of views and counter arguments. He used a lot of statistics when he talked about the amount of undocumented people who came into the U.S., and he said a couple percent of people came to the U.S. and they didn't have a high school diploma or something like that. Or he also said, these amount of people come into the U.S. without knowing how to speak English, or things like that. So yeah, he used that. He also used a video from a lady, I forgot her name, but she's apparently some lady that's important in the government. She talked about how she's like, might as well bring them in. She said that she would be herself, in her opinion, she said that she would take a whole bunch of immigrants, and he used that video, and he also had a counter argument against that, which it actually strengthens his argument a lot, because it makes his claim seem more credible, in a sense that he knows exactly what he's talking about. and it gives him the ability to, just let other people look at him and say, like, he knows what he's talking about. Jorge Ramos used a bunch of, different things that would help him out. He used statistics that were indeed pretty strong. He used a couple of them that were talking about, like, the percentage of people who are here and the percentage of people who actually vote, and like he talks about like a bunch of things like that. He uses a bunch of comparisons. He compared the wall that he was standing next to the wall that Donald Trump wants to build. It wasn't very big. He just said, oh, he wants to build a wall, so it's like this one. But yeah, he also said that. He also used a couple of quoted research. He did use the amendment. He used it, so that shows that he knows about the U.S. history and about the Constitution and things like that. So that's kudos to him. He also did use his own counter arguments based on Donald Trump and what he had to say. He avoided using other like opposing viewpoints. I didn't really catch any of that during the video, so that kind of weakens his argument. It only shows that he's really, really into what he's talking about, but he doesn't show what other people think about the whole situation. So just like Bill O'Reilly, he's not really talking about the other side, and he's not saying like why it's gonna solve the problem if we kick them out or anything. Of course, that's not something that he would want to say, but it would always make his argument stronger than what it is already, and that's something that he's lacking. So in the very beginning, he uses words like hatred, intolerance, and division, and all of those just create a very, very, those are words that you would use to describe a villain in some kind of movie, and that's kind of the image that he gives Donald Trump. He makes him sound like the bad guy, and that affects his whole claim and argument, because it's kind of him being like, we have to rebel against this, and kind of seeing like the good guy in the show or something. And it would kind of make it seem like George Ramos is, in other words, a really, really good hero. Like, we're supposed to support undocumented people, and that we're supposed to, help them out in any way. He uses those words to kind of create, kind of like a weird feel off of Donald Trump. He's making him seem like he's a wrong person. Like, he's attacking him instead of the actual thing, like whole problem of immigration. And that's, not really the best thing to do. Okay, so for the third video that I had to talk about, the third video that I saw, it's about Bill O'Reilly and George Ramos, and it's both of their arguments on immigration. I would say it's moderate, because you do see someone who is liberal and someone who is conservative, and who is on both sides, and there was no one moderate, there was no one in between. However, I feel like because you saw both of their sides, it is kind of moderate, although I do feel like it did lean more on the conservative side, because Bill O'Reilly did host it, he did ask the questions, and he was, you could see that in the video that he was the one that was mostly, I guess you could say, in charge of whatever they were talking about. But yeah, we could see that it was, I don't know if you could say it was biased or not, because you did see Bill O'Reilly talking about the bads of having undocumented illegals here, and you did see George Ramos talking about what are the good things. Yeah, they used different words, like George Ramos did use absurd idea to describe Donald Trump's idea about building a wall. He did use that word, and he made it seem like it was a bad idea, which some may think that it is. Yeah, that's one example of word choice. Another thing that they did do to support their claim, George Ramos did in fact say that 40% of undocumented immigrants were the ones who actually flew over instead of climbing over or any other way to get from Mexico to the U.S. Another thing that you could look at is how Bill O'Reilly did use Kate Sterling. I think I'm saying that name right. Kate Stanley, I think is how you say it. He used her example, how she was shot and killed by an illegal immigrant, and you do see that is true. However, that is one illegal immigrant or undocumented immigrant out of the whole majority of people that are there, and I feel like that is the thing that kind of weakened Bill O'Reilly's claim, he was kind of going, like, again, like only focusing on one specific person when there was a whole vast majority of people who were there that you needed to talk about. However, George Ramos didn't see that opportunity, so he didn't, go back on that. But aside from that, it was a pretty deep argument that you could see that they had going on. Eventually, you can see that they both had good arguments, and they both had bad arguments here and there. But overall, it was a pretty interesting topic overall.